Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Drapers Connects. My name is Graham Moran, and I am the Associate Editor of Drapers. So thank you all for joining us. In partnership with Seven Senders, today we will be discussing shipping as a sales argument and how you can take the customer journey further. I'm very happy to welcome today's panel. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do. Michael, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, thank you very much. And welcome as well to everyone from my side. My name is Michael. I'm Director of Distribution at Asics EMEA. I joined Asics 2015 and hold various positions within operation and distribution logistics since then. And now basically with my team looking after, picking up our products in our factories, transporting them from the Far East usually into Europe, processing within our distribution centers and sending them out to our consumers and customer base across EMEA. Thank you very much for having me.
Perfect. Thank you. Felix, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. Thanks, Michael. My name is Felix Hasenzahl. I live and work in Berlin, being the VP of Sales of Seven Senders. The company exists since something like 9 years. I'm here for 7. We will be talking a lot about what we do, specifically on the example of Asics today. So looking forward to this one. To just briefly sum it up, we organize cross-border parcel delivery. So looking forward to an interesting discussion to have today.
Thank you, Felix. To our audience, if you are watching live, please feel free to ask any questions you might have of our panel. You can do that using Zoom's Q&A function, which I believe should be at the bottom of your screen. And we'll do our best to answer these throughout or at the end of today's discussion. So let's get started. When it comes to shipping, delivery, and returns, we know that customers want a convenient experience. But what does that really mean today? And most importantly, how can brands and retailers deliver that and exceed customer expectations? So just to kick us off with a kind of general question to give us a bit of context, our webinar today is called Shipping as a Sales Argument. Well, is it a sales argument? I guess is my first question. Does it have that much of an impact today? Michael, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think that my thoughts or our thoughts as a company are certainly yes. So there are studies out there that about 30 or 35% of the touch points, in particular a consumer has with a brand, are within the broader logistics area, right? So the order experience, the easiness of handling the website, the easiness of receiving a product, right? Which in particular is mostly with the local hero carrier in the particular country, right? For instance, I do live, like Felix as well, in Germany, in Düsseldorf, and we have a particular carrier in our area that is, in our perception, better than others. And therefore, we as Asics, as a premium brand, have chosen as well to collaborate with local hero carriers in the individual markets we are operating. And this goes for the receiving of the parcel, but certainly as well for the returning of the parcel, right? And therefore, for us, the answer clearly is yes. We would like to offer our consumers really the local hero experience in all individual countries that we are operating.
Perfect. Felix, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. Do customers really care about delivery and returns? Is that going to persuade them to buy with one company over the other?
I mean, you already said you know the answer, so the answer is yes. I sometimes also try to look at the consumer perspective because I'm a consumer myself. I guess everyone that dived into that session is sometimes ordering online. And to me, something like delivery time or delivery carrier is certainly one of the aspects if I decide to click on buy yes or no. So that does play a role. If we look at the Seven Senders example, we believe it's relatively easy to give the consumers what they want for domestic shipments because carriers pick up at your warehouse. It's geographically easy to go into the local networks, but it gets a lot more complicated once there's borders that you have to cross. And that we do as Seven Senders. If I take one example where we can just prove, where we also did some studies, is non-EU destinations like selling to Switzerland, or after Brexit, even UK, that if you offer a DDP delivery, so if you take care that your customers abroad basically don't notice that it's a delivery coming from a EU country, because you clear the customs, you make sure that they don't have to deal with it. This certainly results in higher revenue for the shops also. If I say we did some studies on it, then we have them, but it's also sometimes a bit hard to make sure that the impact on the revenue side, on the sales, is purely coming from our logistics solution, because a lot of times with investing into a logistics solution, shops also invest into marketing. So obviously it goes hand in hand. But I would say if you spend money on marketing to sell in a market, you want to make sure that the logistics solution is not the reason why that sales don't happen. And that's what we can enable shops to do all over Europe.
Excellent. I think no one asked, but I'm going to say my opinion. I think two things I was thinking when we were putting this together. One, it isn't fashion, but it's related to food delivery, a service that I use. And I found out that on certain days they use one carrier, and on other days they use a different carrier. So I have my delivery on a day with a carrier that I prefer because I think they're more reliable. And I think that when I realized that, I realized, yes, shipping is a sales argument in that sense. And also, more professional answer, at Drapers, we recently launched our Gen Z and Millennials consumer research report. And in every single answer around online orders, like, what makes you abandon a cart or what makes you go back to an order, it was always delivery and returns that were kind of first, second, third answer. So I think we've answered the question, yes, shipping can be a sales winner. But to break that down a little more, I wanted to focus on delivery for a while, and kind of what elements shoppers value most in that space. Obviously, the kind of easy answers are speed, but I actually don't know if that is always the top answer. Michael, what do you think?
My thoughts, first of all, are speed is important, I guess, right? But for me, or as well, our, let's say, research and our opinion is that basically it's not same day delivery that is really important. What for us stands really out is next to having the right carrier, so the carrier of choice in the particular country, is as well having reliability across the whole process. Right, so having the reliability of a consumer into a brand, meaning that the consumer gets information when the delivery is actually being processed in the warehouse, that the consumer gets confirmation when the delivery is sent out to him, and that during the journey of the particular parcel, the consumer gets information about where is my parcel at current. And when I promise my consumer that the parcel will arrive on a Monday between 2 and 4 p.m., for instance, then I want my carrier of choice as well to be reliable to make that happen in that particular time slot. And this is really for us, that is very, very important. That is something that we work across the whole supply chain, to make sure that what we promise is as well what we are delivering. And therefore, it happens at Asics that we have warehouses in 3 countries in Europe, but not in all, unfortunately, right? And the lead time and the delivery time to countries and consumers that are, let's say, not happening to live in the particular country where the warehouse is, we don't want to penalize them, right? Therefore, we really want that in every country we can deliver a reliable shipping experience there. That's the answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's funny because in my notes, I'm just looking at them, I've written down speed and convenience and cost, but I think that kind of reliability, as you say, or accuracy thing is super important, and particularly for building trust. If you say it's going to be there tomorrow, but it's not, then That's very annoying. So.
Exactly, and there are carriers, in the markets that are super good in B2B deliveries, right, into deliveries into stores and into warehouses of our wholesale partners, for instance, right? But the e-com or the consumer direct to consumer delivery, whether it's a PUDO location and pickup or it's really a home delivery, I do believe that this is really the most complex point because it's so so necessary that you're really on time there and provide the right service to the consumer, and as well for a brand like us, to be a right partner and to have an easy business with us as a partner.
Yeah. Felix, what do you think, or what have you seen from the different brands and retailers that you work with? What do customers want when it comes to delivery? What's important?
I think speed is one aspect that's very crucial. If I take a recent example, like we enable a lot of shippers from Europe to sell into the UK. So we consolidate pallets of those shippers and truck them all the way to a hub in London from Royal Mail, just as an example. And we always did this in a lead time of 48 hours. So we would pick up on a Monday at a German hub, as an example. On Wednesday, we would hand over to the Royal Mail. And then on Thursday, the parcels would be delivered. But lately, we received the demand from our customers if we can be 1 day faster. Mm-hmm. They are even willing to pay extra for it. Not as much as we would like to see, but they are still a little. So that we inject Tuesday, if we go back to the example, instead of Wednesday. So they'll be 1 day faster than they were before. And they are asking that because it can be a competitive advantage, especially if your products are comparable. So a lot of items, I believe you can sell at different platforms. It might be, I don't know, even an argument if you're 1 day faster to charge a little bit more towards the consumers. So we do get those requests that get us to believe that lead time is very crucial. But as I said in the beginning, it's just one of many aspects. And which other aspects matter also really depends on the country that we are talking about. So you have all sorts of requirement in each market. In Europe, it's very diverse. That's also the reason why a company like Seven Senders exists. So just to give you 2 examples, in Italy, you'll see that there's still a high demand for people to pay cash on delivery. Mm-hmm. So they don't want to pay online. They only want to pay when the parcel is actually delivered. So that's a service that people are going to ask for in Italy. And if you then look into Eastern Germany, Poland as an example, you'll see that people will expect that you deliver the parcel in a locker. So they choose that over home delivery. So what you as an online brand wants to make sure that you offer those options. It's not just about the speed. It's also about making sure that you meet the local requirements.
Yeah. So I guess that makes it very complicated. That we can sit here and say, what do customers want, but we can't brush everyone with the same, tar everyone with the same brush, particularly across Europe. As you say, and I thought that would be something quite interesting to delve into because you can't just have one size fits all. Obviously, here at Drapers, we're based in the UK, so I thought we'd kick off with the UK. Do the UK have any specific preferences? Obviously, cash on delivery is not something we have here, as far as I know. Michael, is there any sort of things that you think the UK really is their preference? Or are there any things that are changing as well? Are there any sort of trends coming through?
I do believe that the UK is, in a positive way, a very mature e-com market, right? And that sets certain demands as well from the customer, from the consumer base, right? And certainly speed is a big topic there. From our understanding, and again, the reliability or the usage of the online tools that certain carriers are providing, like you can change potentially the delivery date into the very last moment. You can follow up the delivery truck on the map until it really drops at your home, right? And lockers are certainly a topic that is growing. That's something that we see as well. And yeah, again, I do believe that the choice for a consumer is quite important, right? So potentially for us as well, it would be something very interesting to look into, to not only have, as you said, you know, the one-size-fits-all carrier for e-com, but as well to offer a choice, a variety of carriers across a particular market like the UK. And I do believe that, you know, this is valid for many other countries as well, right? So when you deliver out of the UK into Europe, as well to have reliability, etc., pp, but as well to offer the carrier of choice and actually a choice of carriers to the different countries. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other, just out of interest, are there any other sort of preferences that certain countries have over others? Just if there's any you could share with the audience.
Yeah, if I add to what Michael said, I mean, it's a funny situation being a German, explaining the most UK audience in this call what they prefer when it comes to e-commerce delivery. So not sure if the Zoom allows it, but if anyone in the audience feels like I'm not representing what they want, then please speak up. If we look at the UK in terms of parcel delivery, the first and biggest challenge is customs clearance, because it hasn't been there before Brexit. So if we look into our European customer base, then this was probably the biggest challenge, which is by now solved, I would say. So the processes are set up. Carrier landscape in UK is a lot different to other countries. If you, for example, look at Switzerland, there's mostly only one carrier, the Swiss Post. If you look at Germany, you have a very dominant player called the DHL. You don't have that in the UK. So if you look into who's delivering the parcels, then you'll find a lot of players that are almost on the same level. So Royal Mail, Every, DHL UK, Parcel Force, Yodel. Not sure if you pronounce them Yodel, but there's a lot. So this supports what Michael says. There's not this one-fits-all carrier in the UK. What we always do is we look at the parcel characteristics and also the consumer characteristics of a certain online shop, and then we consult them which carrier in the UK is the right one to go with. But in contrast to other countries, there's not this one-fits-all carrier.
Excellent. Are there any other, trends or preferences from maybe, France or Italy that we've not covered that you might be able to share? Anyone, Michael, maybe?
Yeah, I think what we see indeed is different expectations, different trends per country indeed. As Felix said, in Italy, you have rather the cash on delivery topic. I do believe that in the Nordics and in South, you have more the PUDO and potentially lockers topic, whereas Germans rather like to have the home still and rather use the lockers than for returns. So there is certainly a differentiation across Europe, which is indeed something that we as Asics again decided that the one size fits all is certainly not the right approach, because we as a premium brand want as well to have a premium experience in terms of the last mile delivery and meet the expectations per country. And when you look at, for instance, in terms of the number of PUDO points, right, the local heroes tendenциally have more PUDO points or more kiosks or more lockers, etc., in the regions, in the countries than maybe the cross-European, the pan-European network carriers have. And yeah, again, this is, I believe, something that really stands out where, we have as well chosen for a couple of months now, almost 2 years, to partner up with 7 senders in order really to open up for us the gates to be able in a lean way, let's say, to collaborate with those local carriers.
It's funny, I guess this kind of proves our point. You use the term PUDO, which I don't think we use as commonly in the UK, which stands for pick up and drop off. And I think that just kind of, we obviously have click and collect, but I think that just sort of sums up the point that every country or regions have different preferences. So what we're saying is, cater to those different preferences, but I can't help but wonder if that gets, from a brand's point of view, if that gets very complicated. We're saying avoid the one size fits all approach, but doesn't that just create a headache for you, Michael? Having to think, oh, we're using this there and that there and this here and that there. How do you get over that headache, I guess?
Yeah, I guess the answer to that is with the help of Seven Senders in this case. I do believe that there are, certainly as well other companies that provide similar services, right? But again, we choose due to a reason Seven Senders and are quite happy with the choice and the solution. For us, we have obviously a different volume per market, right? So, for instance, the UK, Germany, France, Spain are very big or heavy countries where we ship a lot of volume. We have a smaller countries where maybe just the consumer base is not that big, or we are potentially not sending that many parcels on a daily level there. So what we tried to achieve indeed is not to have direct contracts with every single carrier like Poczta Polska in Poland, for instance, or Austrian Post, etc., because that would be an administrative topic, and it would be as well a topic for our IT, right? Because you would need to create interfaces into every single contractual collaboration. And therefore we decided, to partner up, to team up with Seven Senders, because there we have basically, one kind of contractual agreement, and utilizing the volume contracts and the volume of Seven Senders, the partnership with the particular carriers in the country, that enables us really to have the one contact person, let's say, for centrally managed, centrally steered, but locally executed contact person. This is number one. Number two, we are utilizing as well the APIs or the IT interface that we have. And there, the big benefit as well from us, from an organizational standpoint, is you have one interface, and with that you multiply basically into the local countries, which helps us to keep the administrative and IT costs and efforts in a quite a low level. And I think that is really where our partnership is stands out.
Felix, do you have any thoughts on that? If a brand came to you and said, that sounds like a lot of confusion, having all these different processes and plans and preferences, what is your advice on that?
Yeah, so that's basically the idea why Seven Senders was founded. So we always say the opposite to the Seven Senders approach is UPS, which is not necessarily better or worse. Like we believe that UPS is a good shipping company, but they have the approach that they have the same carrier all over the world. So for you as an e-commerce shop, it's really easy to use them. Like it starts with the logistics, like you don't have to pre-sort, just loading it into one vehicle, mostly with the domestic parcels, and UPS does all the rest for you. So our approach at Seven Senders is the complete opposite, because we say you need to have the locally best carrier in each market, but we try to make it as easy as using UPS. So that starts with the logistics, obviously. So we even for Asics, as an example, we also have loose loading in place for particular countries. We try to always pick up every destination with one truck only. We only have one API, so you will need a different carrier label for all the local carriers. Doesn't matter. It's going to feel like one, because it's all going to happen through the Seven Senders IT. You will have in the background to claim in different languages, claim with different information if a parcel gets lost or damaged. Also that we take away as Seven Senders, because you only claim against Seven Senders in one standardized interface, and we do the rest for you. So I could add a lot of examples, but the goal, as I said in the beginning, is it should feel as easy as shipping with UPS. It's probably an ambitious target to have, because it's always gonna involve something like pre-sorting. It's always gonna involve something like talking to 2 or 3 people at Seven Senders, not just one at UPS. But that's the ambition that we have, and to a large extent, I believe we are pretty successful at fulfilling that.
Yeah, to that, and maybe it's worth as well to explain, the logistical process behind. So basically what we do in our distribution center here in Germany is we indeed sort. So we have, a sorter, and we have certain areas in the warehouse where we pre-sort based on country and the pickup time. And then it's not, like one UPS container that picks up on a daily basis, but it can be 3, 4, 5 pickups on a daily basis in different times, which is a little bit, as you said, Felix, a little bit of a headache in the warehouse. But therefore, you have the option indeed to as well steer a little bit the pickup times, right? So I remember that for Netherlands, for instance, we have a very late pickup time, which allows us, we are like 50 kilometers away from the Dutch border. And this late pickup times allows us, to utilize the full day of order entry and order processing. And still we are reaching the local depot of PostNL in this case, late evening in the latest moment where possible for a next day delivery or then same day delivery in the Netherlands. And this, flexibility as well is the upside. And the pre-sorting indeed is a little bit of the downside that we see now.
Okay. Quick note for our live audience. Don't forget, if you do have any questions or any queries, do get them in on the Q&A chat function and we'll do our best to answer them. So we've covered, or we've discussed a bit about delivery, but obviously returns are super important as well. Returns have actually been in the news a lot lately. I think one of the biggest that kicked off this trend was Zara, and they announced that they would be charging for the return of online orders, which is obviously kind of quite a big decision, and also inspired quite a few other brands to do the same, including H&M. I was just quite interested to get your guys' opinion on that. Do we think that the industry generally is kind of going to move away from this free returns focus? Obviously, with Zara, the free returns in store, so they're kind of trying to drive people into store, which might be quite a smart tactic. Just before we get into the kind of deeper discussion on returns, I thought we'd start with that kind of timely question. Felix, what do you think?
I believe whether or not to charge the consumers, that's more a question to ask to Michael. We can just tell from hearing our clients talk about it that it's certainly, I mean, the world has changed in the past years, especially in the e-commerce. So 5 years ago, it's just been growth, and everyone was so excited that cost didn't really matter. That has obviously changed for a lot of shops. So putting return costs down is certainly becoming more and more important. But whether or not to charge the consumer, that question I would pass on to Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Felix. So my answer to that is returns are there, but returns can be avoided. Or what we as a brand try to do is to put a lot of efforts into our web shop, into the collaboration with our consumers, into really pre-purchase tools that we will offer or are offering our consumer base on our website to really purchase the right shoe and not, or the shoe or apparel from Asics in order to not return ideally, right? And I do believe that, next to the question whether or not we should charge for returns, the question is how fast and how good can we develop the tools as, in the e-com world to really avoid returns. And I'm talking there about, for instance, a size finder tooling, right? Where you really measure your feet and really understand, okay, which is the right size for you in order to avoid purchasing, size 45 and 45 and a half, but really in order to purchase the right size that you need. As well as, interaction with our consumer base, right? Via the One Asics Club, or via really good customer service or consumer service, where you really can ask questions easily and get a reply fastly, etc. pp. So the pre-purchase collaboration with a consumer in order to avoid a return is quite important for us. At current, what I can say is that we have an online store where you can purchase our product, which is a quite a high level product, and at current we are offering free returns indeed, and we want to make the consumer journey very beautiful, right? So basically, we want to make the consumer journey as easy as possible. That unfortunately as well includes the returns for now. And there is the easiness of returning a parcel in case you really need it. This is for us in the forefront at current. But again, the world is changing fast, and whether or not we as a business will need to implement this at a certain point of time is something that is to be discussed, I guess. But in general, avoidance of returns and is a key topic. Yeah.
One thing that we're discussing a lot, sorry, Graham, on the return topic right now is especially the bigger platforms like Zalando. They still force every shipper that sells through their platform to put an inlay return label into the parcel, because it's still what the consumers expect, because this is just what they got for basically 5+ years now. So they expect in the parcel there's going to be an inlay return label. If I don't want to keep it, I'll just put it on the outside of the parcel and I'm done. A lot of shops say for a lot of reasons it's smart to not do that, but instead have a return portal where the consumers have to go online and generate the return label. That's smarter for environmental reasons, obviously, because you don't print 100% return label and then, I don't know, 50% are only being used. It's also that you can collect information from the consumers, what they return, why they return, and especially the what they return part is also something, if we look into the UK, that helps a lot with customs clearance. So that's a lot of potential to save costs while making sure that the consumers are still happy. Because I believe consumers are willing to, again, depends on the target customers that online shops have. But if we assume it's the e-commerce age and rather younger people, then I believe the majority is willing to not have an inlay return label, but instead generate an online barcode and answer 2 questions before getting the online label.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of focus around the return question, particularly, sparked by Zara. It was a big thing. We talked a lot about it at Drapers, but I think it's also to switch the view from, it's not just about whether it's free or not. It's about, I think a lot of consumers have almost become addicted to this easy/free returns drug. So they'll order 4 different sizes, or, they'll try extra things that they probably don't want, but they'll just want to have a look because it's so easy to return them. And I wonder, somebody's actually asked, from the audience has asked a question about, which I thought, I'm bringing it in now because it's relevant to the point. They've asked, is there a possibility of the opposite of a one-size-fits-all approach? So, for example, a customer-led return where they've changed their mind or it's an unwanted present, versus product-led return. So maybe it was damaged or it was incorrect. So I guess what they're saying is, can you do different types of return depending what the situation is? Quite an interesting concept. What do you guys think?
Yeah, certainly I believe that, again, the consumer journey should be as flawless as possible, right? Therefore, I can imagine that you have different types of returns that, for us, for instance, or I think for many brands as well, the option to return a parcel in a drop-off point, right? Or to return a parcel in the retail, in the brick and mortar store of this particular brand already offers different choices, right? And really reduce the effort the consumer potentially needs to put into handing over the return parcel. I can imagine that this certainly is helping the consumers, and I can imagine as well that in case of Zara, etc., in case they charge for a return. Okay, but in case a product is damaged, I would also as well expect that there is no reason to charge for a return if a product is damaged, right? Yeah.
I think you also, well, as we were preparing for this discussion, Michael, we discussed something around free returns being almost like a loyalty thing as well. So a really loyal customer or a regular customer, then it's almost becomes a perk. I think that could be something that we see more and more.
I can imagine that, right? I mean, companies or many brands like us as well have membership clubs, where you can join, and you will get more information about the particular brand. But as well, yeah, basically, the more you collaborate, the more benefits you will get, right? And there, a more loyal customer base or consumer base certainly can have more benefits than maybe a less loyal consumer. And therefore, you could, for instance, really offer then free returns, or you could offer as well exchanges of a product, right? In order to not return and then wait for a new purchase, but really with the return, as Felix said, with registering the return online, then a loyal consumer, potentially a member of the club, certainly will get as well information about different products, right? About a different colorway, about a different size or a different model. And for in particular for us as running brand, it can as well be that you have purchased a shoe that maybe after 10 days, 15 days doesn't fully fill your needs, right? So ideally there you could switch to a different model with or a different type of shoe that potentially is better for your feet. Right, and there is all the ways of as well digital engagement, where you can ask fill out a questionnaire and really understand how which particular shoe is helping you in this sentence. So yes, in general, makes sense. Yeah.
Right. I wanted to touch on something that's come up a little bit, but maybe we could talk a little bit more about it, which is I think it's got a few different names, but we call it out of home. So delivery or returns to pickup locations like corner shops or petrol stations, they're particularly popular in the UK, as well as public lockers. Just because I'm really interested to kind of see how this will evolve, because I do think there's definitely interest there. Michael, are you seeing a rise in popularity with out of home as an option? And particularly, is there anywhere that likes it more than other countries?
Yeah, we do see indeed differences in the countries, right? As said initially, I think Germany is tendenциally a country that likes to receive the parcels at home. But there are other countries in Southern Europe, and particularly Northern Europe, where and Eastern Europe and Poland, as Felix said, where the lockers or the drop-off points really are raising in its importance, right? And for us, again, via 7 centers, we have the option to connect multiple carriers per country, and based on the preference of the consumer, really let the consumer choose, right? Because for someone, the gas station might be the right one for someone. And in Poland, I know there is, a particular company, InPost, which offers really the locker solution to the excellence. And therefore, for us, really, it's important. We see differences. We see out of home growing. And as well from a sustainability perspective, right? It's obvious, right? A delivery truck needs to stop once and can drop off, let's say, 5 or 10 parcels instead of one. And that is something that I can only encourage as well consumers to do, right? Because yeah, if only for the sustainability part, that makes sense. And yeah, certainly people are not always at home, so planning to receive the delivery in a locker or in an out-of-home delivery situation for us certainly makes sense, right? We offer as well, and we see consumers as well using that that you buy online and pick up in a store, right? Which as well for many brands makes sense, where you potentially can as well increase the basket a little bit of the particular consumer. So I think that's using the stores as a kind of omni-channel approach for us is as well a strategy that that pays off.
Felix, you agree?
Yeah, it's like Michael said, so it's very different from country to country. So if we take the two extremes, then on the one end of the scale, you have Scandinavia, where you see like 90% of the people asking for a pickup point delivery. If you go to Italy, it's more in the 1-digit low % area. It's probably because a lot of Italians still live in like multi-generational households. So there's always someone home that can accept the parcel. Scandinavia apparently is different, but that's just one of the explanations. Fact is, it's very different from country to country. But you have a lot somewhere in between. So if we look into France, for example, you see 30% of the consumers are willing to order to a pickup point if it's offered at the same cost than the home delivery. And there's a lot of good reasons for online shops to then also offer this option. The two most prominent one are saving cost, because typically a pickup point delivery for an online shop is cheaper than a home delivery. So if the consumer is asking for it anyway because he wants it, you want to make sure that you offer it and save money. And the second one is also related to the question that was raised by Herwig in the Q&A section here. It's also more sustainable. So Michael already said it. Also there we have a study that says for out-of-home delivery, only 50% of the CO2 emissions happen compared to a home delivery. So you save half of the emissions. And that's, again, the second big reason why we believe you should offer out-of-home. If I put that into the answer to Herwig's question, what do we do on sustainability? That's only one of two things we are doing. The first thing is, yes, we offer to compensate CO2 emissions by just paying a larger price for the parcel delivery that we then use to compensate the CO2. But our ambition is to do more than that and make sure that as little emissions happen as possible. And there, out of home is one option, and the other option is is to go with carriers that have an electric fleet on the last mile. And Liefergrün is one of these examples. So that's what we do in the sustainability area. And if I look at the out-of-home topic, it's one of two reasons why I believe it makes a lot of sense to use it.
Excellent. Some great insights there. I think that's it's a really small thing, but it just really struck me those kind of little quirks between countries. Like you say, there's always going to be someone at home in Italy to collect your parcel. It's something you might not think about, but it actually does make a huge difference. And thank you for covering that audience question. Again, we are running out of time, but just in case anyone in the audience does have any live questions, do get them in. Again, another point that I wanted to raise that has been touched on a little bit is we're talking a lot here about cross-border commerce. And of course, not only in terms of customers' preferences, but just actually physically being able to deliver those parcels cross-border comes with some challenges and some headaches, as we mentioned, the Brexit word. And of course, different customs unions have different rules and legal regulations. Michael, could you tell us kind of how you're tackling these and any issues that have come up that you've managed to overcome in this space?
I think one good example that I could mention that certainly is as well relevant for the UK-based audience is we, as I said, we have the warehouse in Germany, and we have opened recently e-com in Norway and Switzerland. For instance, in Switzerland, you have really different regulations, right? You have every single non-EU country, but as well as the European Union, have slightly different customs regulations, minimum thresholds, documentations that you need to fill out for the ship out and for the return. And there, indeed, we have recently went live with 7 senders in the customs clearance solution as well, in particular into Switzerland, where basically not only we have the benefit of the delivery and utilization of the local hero in Switzerland, which indeed is Swiss Post, but as well it's basically the customs clearance process. Outbound and inbound is really done by one partner that as well takes care of the shipment at the end, and this is really a big benefit for us. because again, otherwise, if you would need to have contracts with local carriers and then take care of the customs regulations individually, that would be indeed an administrative topic, which now we could really hand over, luckily, to Felix and his team. And that goes as well for the returns, right? So in Switzerland, for the Swiss consumer, he really doesn't recognize whether we ship from Germany or whether we would have a warehouse in Switzerland itself, because he receives the parcel with the local hero, and as well he can drop off the return via the Swiss Post with all the benefits of a local hero. And the parcels or the returns are consolidated in the hub. The consumer potentially gets the refund directly once the parcel arrives in the local hub and is potentially went through quality control there. And then we have the bulk shipment back into our warehouse in Germany, which again saves us cost on transport, CO2 emissions, but as well saves us cost and effort on the customs solution. So that would be, in short, the answer to that. Yeah.
Felix, you're nodding. Is that you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I believe when it comes to the customs challenge, we have two parties that we want to make happy. It's firstly the consumer, exactly what Michael said, and secondly also the logistics processes at our customers, because we know that customs can be manual. So the worst case is you have to attach documents to the parcels that you send into the non-EU or outside of the non-EU countries, and we try to solve both of it. If I add one example to the second thing I said, for us, it's enough if we get article data. So we're just going to ask for, please tell us what is inside of the parcel. So give us an article description, give us a weight, and that's essentially already it. The rest we can do with our customs logic in the background. So we will not even ask for something like customs tariff codes. We will not ask your logistics team to attach anything to the parcel. We are trying to make it feel like it's a domestic shipment. Doesn't make any difference in how you handle it in your warehouse before handing it over.
Excellent, thank you. I'm going to do a few audience questions now. This is, I guess, one for both of you, but it was off the back of what you said, Michael. Given the unpredictabilities that can arise in cross-border e-commerce, how do you maintain that level of reliability that you spoke about at the beginning of being so important to customers today?
How do I do maintain it? Basically, the solution that we have now in place with Seven Senders and us is a solution where we have a solid reporting tool as well, that we basically can trace back in one system, in one reporting tool, all of the carriers that we have connected via Seven Senders, which gives our logistics team an easy way to monitor SLAs, service level agreements, to monitor lead times, and to understand certain turns in the whole thing, and to find outliers quite easily. There are certainly carriers even in a country that are potentially better in one region than in the other, and therefore with the data that we are generating, we can really understand certain patterns and then potentially really take decision to switch a carrier in a particular region, right, as well. So yeah, data analytics certainly key there.
I guess this is one for you, Felix. What kind of customers, I guess what they're saying is, what kind of customers can you work with? Is there a certain size or scale, or do they have to have, a certain customer base in certain countries for it to be effective?
Yeah, good question. So the answer is we only do parcel delivery in Europe. So I already see that being the answer to what Mohammed also asked. So Middle East, no idea. Sorry, we only do Europe. That's the first crucial restriction. And the second one is that we work with medium to large e-tailers. So to make that a bit more tangible, if you calculate in parcels per year, we would need at least 20,000 going to cross-border European destinations. If you have less than that, our logistics is going to be too expensive. So it starts to be interesting if an online shop has 20,000 cross-border shipments per year.
Thank you. Someone has asked, besides the sales impact that we started with, did switching to local hero carriers show visible impacts on other things? They've suggested things like customer service requests or NPS scores. So I guess that's a question for you, Michael.
Yeah, I think yes, it shows visible impact, right? As we all said, we have everyone has the carrier of choice, and a carrier that he trusts, and a carrier that is potentially known as reliable in the market. And if I, as a brand, can offer this, independently to which country I ship, independently where I have my warehouse, if I, via a solid, cost-efficient solution, can offer this to every consumer in Europe, in the countries, then the answer is yes. I do believe that the consumer will be happy because it was easy for him. We met what we promised. So the reliability part is there, and I do believe that this consumer, potentially might come back, right? Because he experienced a good experience, operational experience with the party, and certainly he will come back to make it again.
Thank you. There's been a few mentions. We have touched on it, but I thought it would be a good kind of. There's been a few questions that touch on sustainability, basically, and obviously, sustainability now touches all parts of many businesses and business operations. So, Michael, how is the issue of sustainability impacting your strategy?
Yeah, I think quite a lot in a positive way, right? So Asics has obviously a global sustainability strategy. Asics has 100% green energy in all of the facilities across Europe. Asics is developing, shoes out of recycled material, potentially utilizing recycled material in the shoes and in the fabrics of apparel where possible. And Asics is as well a company that would like to, provide a sustainable logistics solution, right? So again, in our warehouses, we are utilizing green energy. We have solar panels where it makes sense, and we indeed have all of our parcel deliveries via 7 centers, for instance, offset, right? So we have the green label on the parcels. And we are, trying to collaborate with carriers and with partners that are supporting us in achieving this mission. So yes, it has a very big impact on our actions in the operations. Yeah.
Felix, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, it's basically what I said towards Herwig's question. So we have what Michael just described, so the possibility to offset emissions. But even more importantly, we are working a lot on making sure that emissions don't happen in the first place. And one of the ideas that we are having, or not ideas, one of the measures that we have live is the out-of-home delivery. It's carriers with an electric fleet. Sometimes with customers, we say, let's only drive full trucks load. Might not be 5 times a week, might be 3 times per week to save on emissions. So there's all that. If I look very recently into something that happened in Germany is that we have a new, I'm not sure if the right term to call it is a law, but the CO2 price per ton is getting higher in Germany, like effective, I believe, 1st of November. And that also has an impact for us on the line haul transportation, because we're going to pay more to our partners, to our service providers. And that's also a discussion that we are having with all our customers then. So it becomes a more crucial part of what we do every day. But we as 7 Senders, we have the ambition to not wait for the legal framework to change, but really do everything we can in advance so that, again, emissions are either offset or don't happen in the first place.
Thank you. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. I think we covered quite a lot in there, although there is more we could definitely talk about. But thank you, Michael and Felix, for your contributions. Thank you to 7 senders. And thank you to our audience for watching. We'll see you on the next one.